Alright, I do not have a lot of time today, but I wasn't able to get a video out today. I want to try to at least get one out today, though, before I leave, because I will be gone all day. I will not be back until tomorrow morning. So this one, oh man, I like it whenever Tim Pool reports on the news and the media and the lies and the manipulation. He just has it just dead on, or at least it seems to be that way. Whenever it comes to policies and how to change things or whatever, no, but I mean, it makes sense. He's kind of a news person. He's not really a politician. But we're going to go over this video that I came across with him. The video that he made is called "Police Are Resigning en Masse Over BLM Riots and Democratic Policy. The Chauvin verdict will make it worse." And it's like, yep, I think so too. So he has some things that I agree with that he says in the video, a few things that I don't, and then I have a lot of additional things to say on it. I'm not going to be able to cover all of it because I cannot do an hour one because it takes like 25 minutes roughly to upload that, and I just do not have the time. That would make me late today. So if you like what I'm doing, hit the thumbs up. It's real easy. Subscribe. It helps me out. You may not like YouTube or whatever, but it's what I have to work with right now. So, I mean, that's all that I have. So, but I do have Patreon and Subscribestar. Same thing if you don't like them. I mean, that's what I have to work with right now. So, I'm limited by that until things get going. So let's go ahead and we're going to watch this and comment as we go.
Many departments are saying they're struggling to recruit new people. Applications are at an all-time low, a historical low. Some departments are saying that they're struggling to reach the amount of officers they need, and thus, in many jurisdictions, we are seeing crime
skyrocket because of this. Yeah, and it makes sense. I would absolutely 100% positively leave. They could all go screw themselves. There are plenty of jobs out there, plenty of things to do besides this. I really hate this mentality of these people who think that just because that they have this job, that it's like, you know what, the chances that you're going to keep this job for 20 years and be able to retire off it isn't something that happens anymore. The chances that you're going to go work at a job, work for 20 years, get like the gold watch and the little pin and the pension and all that stuff, it's not what happens anymore. I've seen plenty of videos of people who are economists who are talking about this, that is something back in the days whenever we had the Industrial Revolution going on, and that's exactly what people did. But because of technology, it changes things drastically all the time, and there's always all kind of this new competition that's coming up, kind of going after the old set ways right there. The only places where it's not quite happening as fast is whenever they have all these laws and policies in place, and so there's all this red tape and added expenses, so it makes it harder for competition to happen, and then that makes it harder for us to innovate and to move forward because we're stagnated here because of politicians wanting to line their pockets, and the big business companies help them do that. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. It's trash. And it's people too who that they don't have good morals and values, so that whenever something bad does happen, they don't know how to react to it. And I think part of that too is because people are just busy. We are busier than we ever were before. If you went, my grandmother was born in 1919, and back then, man, they did not have electricity or running water or anything out there in the country where she was living. I don't know if that was even anything that they had in the cities at that time, but it wouldn't take you going back much further than that where they didn't. You know, and so what did you do with all of your time if you didn't have computers and TVs and movie theaters and Walmart, McDonald's, and Best Buy and, you know, electronic stores and all these other places that you could go? What did you do? You had plenty of time to mull over things like this, to think about who you wanted to be as a person, how you were going to act, and yeah, so I think that we are incredibly busy, busier than we've ever been before in our lives. And, you know, something's kind of got to give. And I think our morals and our values have kind of slid under the rug there for sure. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue.
Skyrocket. Unfortunately for most people who actually do want the police, the media has been inundating everyone with the worst of the worst.
Yeah, and that's trash. That's absolutely right. You know, how many officers are involved with something that's bad? It's very few, because you don't hear the same. You don't hear horrible story after horrible story after horrible story coming from just one place. They have to take from all across the country because there's not enough of it. It's like, here's something that happened horrible in California. Well, all the way over in New York the next day, here's something else that was horrible that happened. Now we got to go all the way down south to Florida. Now we got to go back to the middle of the country to Texas. It's not like it's Texas, 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 or California, California, California. There's not that much going on at all. If we did it in reverse, it's like, what about all the good encounters? That you could absolutely do. That happens all the time. Because police are not getting written up en masse for all the bad crap that they're doing. So is the media to blame for this? Absolutely. And they're not being held accountable for this nonsense, and they're not giving a balance. They're not giving the full picture of it. It's very extremely narrowed. Oh, look at this one incident here. It's like, shut the hell up.
It's the name of the game. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and police.
You know, it's kind of, because we do need to know about it. We need to know that if the system is broken in some way, we need to know about it so we can think about it and hopefully come up with some kind of solution to make things better. But at the same time, it's like you don't want to drown in this negativity all the time and have it bring you down, and just, even if it's just putting you in a bad mood, it's like, why? It's like, they need to put things in better perspective. All right, well, this was just one officer out of however many would be at the precinct, and there's this many precincts in this large city, you know, and out of the state. Some kind of content so you could better understand. But I think part of that problem is that anger sells, just like sex sells. So I don't know if they would ever do anything like that. I mean, I might be able to. The system that I have that I'm going to build up, maybe that'll address that a little bit. Well, actually, yeah, it can.
Brutality news generates clicks. So the left is actually winning on this one. The people who are in favor of defunding and abolishing the police, while not necessarily winning a political victory, are winning an implied victory. The sustained pressure campaigns, the fact that district attorneys are not prosecuting.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. He's talking about how BLM activists are doing this stuff. And it's like, who are they? Let's ask that one too. We've gone over who the cops are, you know, the bad cops. They're a minority portion of the police force who are doing this. What about BLM activists and all these extreme far leftists? Who are they? They too are a minority. These are losers who don't have a damn life. They don't have anything better to do than just to cry. They don't have any proposals for anything better. They get money off of clickbait nonsense. And because they're really loud and they're vocal, they get this stuff done, and it's like, screw you. Where do you live? You don't live in that city? You don't even live in that state? Why in the hell is anybody listening to them? It's because they're not being held accountable either. So they get to lie, and they get to blow this up. And it's like, you know, what's your evidence that this police force, this station, this precinct is just horrible? This one guy, this one time, this one officer? Shut up. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're just a liar. You are too lazy to go out and to do some real work and to innovate by making things better. You just go around and you just cry like a child. It's like, yeah, you know what? Children in elementary school can say the same thing. So, yeah, cops shouldn't just shoot people. It's like, congratulations, you have the mentality of a child. Now, how about you grow up, act like an adult, and come with a real damn solution that makes things better? Stupid child.
Rioters has police saying, what's the point? Why bother being a police officer if you're going to risk your life and then go to prison if you try to defend yourself.
That's right. I have no idea why, this does happen. I don't know why these people are staying and being officers, especially if they're really new. Now, if you've been there longer and you're more invested, it's like, yeah, that's kind of hard to give up all the benefits and everything that you've worked for up to that point. But if anything, I would really strongly consider at least transferring somewhere else, or maybe not be an officer in a large city and see about a smaller place, less politically active.
Which brings us to the Chauvin verdict. This isn't even playing a role yet. The resignations in Albuquerque came 2 days ago. That was the day, I believe, of the Chauvin verdict being read. So this isn't.
So there you go. You know what? What does the Chauvin trial have to do with anything with the officers in New Mexico? It's like, shut up. You don't live there. You don't know what's going on. I think part of the problem, too, is that there should be accountability with all of these people and what's going on, that these politicians, that they don't get to pick and choose whether or not if they're going to prosecute. And that's something that he talks about, is that these DAs are not prosecuting these individuals. It's like, you don't have a choice in that. The law is already there. You don't get to arbitrarily say, screw it, I'm not going to because I don't believe in that, or these are my friends, or this is my clan of people that I side with. That's not what you get to do. You don't get to say, I'm going to crap all over everybody else who I disagree with. No, you have to be fair. And there's nothing in place to make these politicians accountable. It's like, these people should be fired. They should be fined. They should even be thrown in jail. With more power comes more responsibility. And it's like, we don't have that. And it's like, why not? What, with more power, the more that you get away with? The more that you get to break the law? That is exactly what they're doing. They don't get to do this. It's not their choice. Politicians, I tell you what, whenever they're running and they're doing their campaigning, they should have to list out everything that they're for. And then whenever they get voted into office, then it stays. You don't get to change. Once when the voting starts, that's it. It's locked in. And it needs to be plain and clear for everyone to understand. And then that's it until your term is up. That's what you got elected on. That's what you have to stand with. Then when your term is up and you're going up for re-election, then you can change. No accountability at all. Just lying their butts off. I wanted to say the other word, but
news was before we even knew that Chauvin was going to be found guilty. Perhaps the trial itself, perhaps the criminal charges were enough for many officers saying, I ain't playing this game anymore. And you know what? I think it's the right move for everyone. Now the left is going to come out and they're going to say, oh, look at the right-wingers all salty, Tim Pool's all upset. No, I'm chilling.
Yeah. I do not care. I do not care about these Democrats and what it is that they want to do at all. I have a problem with them affecting me and what's going on with where I live and with what I'm doing. It's like, Texas should not give a damn about what's going on with any of these places. With New Mexico, with these trials going on, with Chauvin. It's like, it has nothing to do with Texas at all. We should keep doing what we're doing, and they can do what they want to do. And if they want to defund their police, by all means, go ahead and do that. Knock yourself out. Let it be a haven for criminals for all I care. Have there be mass shootings and robberies and all that stuff. Go ahead. I would say the only thing, though, is that I want the information. I want the numbers. Because I want to see what's really working and what's not. Because who knows? Maybe we'll be surprised. Maybe there'll be a rough transition and something will emerge from it, and it might be something better. I don't know. I can't see the future. I don't have all the answers to everything. So, and this is, again, I really like this video conversation that Jordan Peterson put online with him and Senator Mike Lee. Senator Mike Lee, who's his dad was a lawyer, so he's really had a full life of understanding the law and the Constitution, and his dad was a big proponent of the Constitution, and he stated it that part of the reason why the Constitution is set up the way that it is that states are designed to be test zones for you to be able to see what's going on in each place, so we can compare and contrast all of these different policies and attitudes and everything, and then take from the best of it. It's like, yes, that's absolutely right. I think that is absolutely wonderful. So, for example, pot. What are the real effects of pot? And so we can have states where they've legalized pot and others where they haven't, and then we can compare and contrast. Now, we need accurate, up-to-date information that isn't skewed. We really want to make sure that it's as pure as we can have it with the information. So, for example, with COVID, one of the things that they're doing is that they're just listing everybody as COVID. So, for example, I've talked to nurses, and this is something that they're doing at the facilities that they're working at, is that they list everybody as possible COVID risks, and then they get more funding for it just by putting them down that way, even though they don't have it. Even though nobody may have it at all, they do it anyways because they're getting additional funding. That's not pure information. That is skewed, for sure. 100%. It's trash. But they're not being held accountable for it. And I know how to do it. I know how to do it with all of it. I tell you what, for any of you people out there who are watching this, you're going to see somebody who's going to make a huge difference in the world with all this stuff. And I cannot do this alone. I will absolutely need your help. It is something that we are definitely going to do this together. It's going to be a really good, great thing. Maybe not as great as I have envisioned in my head. Of course I want that because it's something that I've come up with. But still, whatever happens, it is going to make things definitely better. And I will absolutely share all of my secrets. I will share them as they come in, because there are two big ones that happened where I kind of had these two little epiphanies or two moments of clarity that kind of came to my mind. And I put these two things together, and it changed the way that I now look at everything. So it's like it's clown world to me. I'm going to end off by saying that I think that it would be better if people were managed in smaller groups. I think having a large city where it's like, why is there a mayor over millions of people? That doesn't make sense whenever you think about it. So, for example, the mayor of New York, there's millions of people there. Do you think that one person can relate to people who are in poverty, or people who are drug addicts, who are also, or maybe separately, maybe they're just alcoholics, people who are black, people who are white, men, women, young, old, rich, poor, you name it? There's no way. New York is so big, there's so many people there, that they have separate communities within New York. So, for example, there's many large cities, and they have like a little China area, and there's a large population of Chinese or Asians, maybe in general. They have strong religious communities too. Like you can go to a part of town and it's very heavily with Jews or maybe Muslims or Christians or Buddhists or whatever, that they have that. We have that. I live, there are several small towns around where I live, and there's one, for example, where they're really, they're from German descent. I think, if I understand it correctly, during World War II, some of the German prisoners that were captured stayed here, and they built a little town about 30 minutes out of town, and it's very small, and it's there, and they're just all of German descent. They were like, you got no reason to go back, and they just stayed. And you have this all up. What works for them is not going to work for others. What works for the extremely rich isn't going to work for the poor. Another way to look at this is that if you want to get into tech, going to Silicon Valley would probably be something that you would want to really think about. To go and work for one of the big companies to get a lot of experience, and then maybe branching off on your own and starting up your own company. That happens a lot. That people work for a large company, get these ideas on how to make things better. They can't implement it though, because the companies, the larger they get, the more they get bogged down with red tape, so change can't happen. And so these people just quit and they start up their own, and they surpass the old company that's just not innovating new ideas and new technologies and innovations and all that kind of stuff. It's like, yes, that's good, that's great, that's what I want. Whenever there's new ideas, I don't want them to be stifled in any way. If you were, what's another good example of kind of putting this? People who are in tech also don't understand anything about farming. So why should they be allowed in any capacity to vote on or decide what should be going on within the farming agricultural industry? Or for any other cross industries either. Or any other kind of demographics. I think all of this should be smaller. I think New York would be ran a hell of a lot better if New York City got tore up into a bunch of smaller cities. So in that way, these poor areas who have high crime rates, you know what, if they say that we want to defund the police, then let them. But it should be them. It should not be a bunch of scattered BLM activists scattered across the country. It shouldn't be the rich people on the rich part of town either who don't have an issue with crime. They don't understand. Let those people in those areas decide for themselves. Same thing with the rich people. You know what? If they don't have an issue with crime, maybe they don't need police. Or maybe they need something else besides police. Maybe you need two different kinds of police officers. Maybe you need police officers that are really good and specifically trained for working in maybe really violent, combative areas. And then you need another kind of officer that's trained differently for low crime areas. You know, and Tim Pool's kind of talked about this before, that you should have different kinds of officers who are doing different kinds of jobs. It's like, yeah, I think that's kind of going in the right direction. It's not the same where you could have just a few beat cops and they just kind of handle everything everywhere. The population is so large and there's so many things that are going. It's like 1% of the population or 2% of the population is gay, or they're really gay. Whenever you only have a population of like 100 people, then that means you have one person. If it's 100,000 people, well, that's 1,000 people. You know, if it's a population of 100 million, then that's 1 million people. And that's what's happened, is that the population has definitely gone up. So 1 or 2% is still a small percentage, but the total number has gone up. So now there's a large amount. And it's the same thing with criminals. It's like, okay, well, you only had, you know, maybe 1 out of 100, but the population has gone up, so has the criminal activity, and now we can have maybe police who are strictly dedicated to murders, others that are strictly dedicated to theft, and I mean, kind of pick whatever, or you could look at the information and see what the highest crimes are, and then you could target those areas by having those who are special. The same thing with school. It's like we used to, and we still do, you just happen to go to school with people who just happen to be your neighbors. But today, it's like, no, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be dividing the students up based off of what they're capable of doing. And we've been doing this already because we have schools for the deaf and for the blind. They don't go to normal school. They shouldn't. And it's the same thing now. It's like kids who have ADHD, for example, that they might need to go to a special school just for them. And it's because now there's so many of them, because the population has gone up, that we can do that. Or kids who have dyslexia, or kids who are just high performers and do honor rolls, or maybe students who, they're not mentally challenged, but they're not quite normal either. Imagine how much better the school could be if the entire school had students who were all performing the same, and the teachers and the staff and the administration were also trained in order to deal with it. And I think that's exactly what needs to happen with the police. It's like, if you don't live there, then you're not a part of it. So shut up. I mean, you can have your suggestions, but you don't get to, you should have absolutely no say in how they're handling things. You can have your suggestions, but you don't get to vote. You don't live there. You don't know what it's really like. Mind your own damn business. So, this is a good place to stop. I've really got to get going. I hope you've enjoyed. Hit the thumbs up. It helps me subscribe. I've got Patreon and Subscribe Star. That's the way that you can help me out with all this content. I'm tired of the lies. This wasn't meant to change your mind. It's just to show that this is ridiculous, and I'm tired of going around in circles. It's a big waste of time, and I want to be more productive than this, and I hope that you do too. So thanks a lot for watching. We'll catch you again later. Bye.